Yes, so welcome to the presentation. I'm going to speak about JobAdConnect. And we go to the first slide. So a little presentation about myself. My name is Carl Lamberg. I see myself as a developer and an IT architect. And I'm also curious about the data scientist field, even if I'm not that experienced in that field yet. And I'm working at the Swedish Public Employment Service since about 2017. So yeah, 6 years ago. I have some background from banking sectors and national defense sectors. And exact work, I'm a runner and I really like to coach running as well. And you can see me here in the circle. Yeah, and now I'm alone at this online presentation, but anyway, please feel free to ask questions after the presentation. Now I'm going to speak a little about JobTech, where I work. So JobTech is a part of the Swedish Public Employment Service since 2016. And we are around 50 employees at JobTech, even if the Swedish Public Employment Service is a lot more bigger. It's like thousands of employees. And our focus is developing open APIs and data sets, and we work using open source code for the solutions. So yeah, all components are available and free to use for anyone. And we have collaboration with around 200 companies. And we are working mainly in the labor market sector, but nowadays we also work a little in the education market because of the government assignment on lifelong learning and skills supply. So that's a little about JobTech, which is a part of the Swedish Public Employment Service. So the question is, why did we develop JobAdConnect? Well, there is a government assignment on lifelong learning and skill supply in Sweden, which we were involved in. And we had some workshops within that, where we asked ourselves, how could we contribute? We also digged into what user groups exist in the area and what are the problems that they are facing. We also digged into what data and APIs do we have access to and already exist. Yeah, and from that we had some conclusions. We saw that there is a manual process to see if an education leads to an occupation and with a good future forecast. We also discovered that Swedish educations are actually available as open data through an API called SUSE Hub. We also realized that there are more than 200,000 educations in SUSE Hub, and to do manual insights from that data is like unreasonable. We also know that JobTech ourselves, we provide Swedish historical job ads from 2006 and forward, and we provide that as open data. We also have an open API called JobAdEnrichment, where we can extract demanded competences and job titles and also geodata and a little more from unstructured data. It's actually it's an AI solution. We also identified some actors about this. Employers, of course, who needs to employ. Training providers, those who offers the educations, and also individuals, more or less citizens. So we wanted to do a proof of concept in this area. So what we wanted to do was to match between educations and occupations using some kind of text analysis. And we wanted to support both the SUSE hub, where we have all those Swedish educations, but also a more open way to do that by matching from describing text about educations. And we also wanted to support standardized concepts, like de facto standard concepts, for example, for occupation groups. In Sweden, we have a concept called SSYK for occupations groups, so that it's possible to connect to other APIs and in that way support different kind of use cases. And of course, we wanted to implement this as open source project. So one important part is how to extract or how to generate occupation data set. So what we do is we extract relevant competences and job titles from historical job ads in Sweden, from our historical job ads data sets, and we focus on the interval 2016 to 2022, because we don't want too old job ads. So we think that's a good trade-off. And this is an example. Maybe we find these two job ads, like two system developer job ads. And from that, using JobAdEnrichment, we extract the competences and the job titles that we find. So in this case, maybe we find like Java, Python, JavaScript, Java developer, system developer, Angular. That's the example. Then we put all those into a bucket for the job title or occupation. So we have a system developer bucket where we put all those competences that we find for that kind of jobs that we find from all the historical job ads. Another example would be maybe a nurse, where we find maybe nurse, healthcare, nursing care, surgery could be examples, and then we put that into the nurse bucket with all the competences and job titles that are related. And we did this for all Swedish ads from 2016 to 2022. And then we put all this into an open search document database index. So, and open search, that's a version of Elasticsearch. So it's a document database. Another important concept is that we match occupations from education. This is an example. So maybe we have an education, could be a Susannavet education or a free text education from somewhere. So this could be an example, like it's a describing text about the education. Then we extract competences similar to what we did from the historical job ads, but this is education, not job ad. Maybe we find some competences and job titles. Yeah, Java developer, Java system developer databases, for example. Yeah, and then we match those competences and job titles by the occupation dataset. And then we end up with a list of occupations that are relevant or related to that education. And we get them sorted on relevance. So this could be, well, this is actually the case in this case. So from this, we get the occupations, system developer, programmer, front-end developer, DBA, from the education description. So this is some of the languages and the technologies that we use. Already mentioned that we implemented in open source. We use a Python library called Scrapy for fetching education, and we do that from APIs and from web. And yeah, APIs, that's more or less Susannavet. We use Minu S3 buckets for temporary storing the data. And we also put it in OpenSearch, as mentioned, OpenSearch database, which, yeah, it's a distribution of Elasticsearch, actually. Yeah, and it's developed as microservices. We deploy as containers in Red Hat OpenShift. We use Python Flask API for REST API, which is relevant in this conference, as it's API Days conference. Yeah, and also we have a demo application for this implemented in Angular. And now we need to switch to a web browser. So I will stop share. So present, share screen. So hopefully you see my web browser now. Really hope so. So what we see here is 3 different tabs. And unfortunately, as you can see, it's actually written in Swedish. And the data behind is also in Swedish. But I will try to translate, and I hope you can get the concept and be inspired in a way. The REST API, anyway, is actually in English, so that you will understand. But what you do in the first tab here is that you can search for educations in Susannavet, and you can show matching or related occupations. We have a free text field here. You can also filter on some attributes like core, if it's a course or program or what it is, and a different kind of education forms, like if it's if it's like university or some lower kind of educations. And we also have municipality. Yeah. So I can give an example here. So maybe I want to search for education with a free text search on miljö, which is environment in English. Yeah. So what I got here on the left side is matching educations. So this is not the This is only like a result from the free text search. So this is Susanavet Educations in the left. So it's, the first hit is some kind of civil engineering program about environment and water technology. Naturresurser och miljö, that's like nature and environment. Human field about environment. Yeah, you get different stuff here. And if I click this related occupations, I get the actual matching here though. And this is contribute more or less. So from this education, we get the matching that, maybe these occupations are related. So like civil engineering, hydrolog, I don't know how to translate that. Other kind of engineering, and it's actually possible to look into a little more about the occupation. You can see like, salary and stuff, number of employees in the area. And the thing is that that's actually not our contribution, because we use standardized concepts like occupation group. We can actually get those kind of statistics from other part of the government, or any organization at all that has that. So that's good. We can do another search here. Maybe, I mean, this is an API conference. We can search for REST API. So I want to find educations about REST APIs, and I also want to see what occupations is being matched. Okay, full stack developer, some kind of program. And I got the related occupations. So the matching says, backend developer, system developer, front-end developer, software engineer, something like that. I can also mention that the matching occupations, they are sorted on relevance. So if you go really down, there is less relevance on the matching. And I think we have a limit of 10 occupations now. It's possible to expand if you want to. So this is matching between educations and occupations. And this is actually, a little special, but because I don't think we have seen that anywhere else from an AI solution. Okay, so we have another tab here. So this is matching from education to occupation, but you don't have to use like Susanavet or something. You can use any description, any describing text about education. So we can take, for example, it needs to be Swedish. So utbildning.se, that's like education.se translated. And maybe, so motorsåg, that's actually chainsaw in Swedish. So I found something here. Here we have some describing text, or at least bullets about it. Look at this. So copy, paste it here. Some describing text about chainsaw. And I click match to match occupation. So from that education text, we get these suggestions that, skogsarbetare, that's like, what, a forest worker. This is as well. Environment worker. Arborist, that's the one that, works with trees, actually. It seems reasonable. And also on the left side here, you can see education, occupations and educations that the Job and Enrichment API is finding competences out from the text. So from this chainsaw education text, we actually found these competences. So that's how the matching is done under the hood. So that's occupation out from education text. We also have a third tab here. So this is the opposite. You can, from a job title, you can match what educations that are related to that job title. So maybe can start with like IT architect. This is IT architect spelled in Swedish. So this is an occupation title or job title. So I get some. So down here I get some matching educations from Susan Avet. This suggests civil engineering with IT. That's a whole university program. They suggest some course here, Microservices and open web APIs. That's only a course. IT infrastructure specialist, DevOps engineer, maybe that's a little far from, but even if it's somehow related to APIs and IT architect. Just for fun, I can also. YouTuber seems to actually be a job title in Sweden, I suppose. So if you want to work as YouTuber, you are suggested these educations. Production lead, some other production lead media. You get some different results. So that's basically it. And you also here can filter on municipality and kind of education, and if it's like a program or course or so. And I also can actually, if I do a full search without any filter here, you can see that right now we match on 220,569 hits, which means that number of educations. Could be course, could be programs. So that's the front-end demo. I can also show that behind this we have, of course, an API, an open API, which looks like this. It's a REST API, and this is a Swagger definition. So here you can see the education search. So this is an endpoint that is called when you do a free text search from tab number 1. Yeah, and here you get exactly one education resource from ID that you probably have found from the first endpoint. And we have the matching endpoints. As you can see, we have use post as verb for the AI endpoints, because we believe that we don't fetch any resource. We do like a calculation, and which is a matching. Yeah, and we have match educations. We have some other stuff, some search parameters that could be good for GUI. Yeah, and the idea is that as we have this as an open API, anyone interested can consume this API and do their own applications, or any kind of systems actually that need these kind of matchings. I think that's it from the demo part. I can go back to the presentation. So present, share. So yeah, so this was a demo. Yeah, and I showed the API. Yeah, I also showed that you can search, fetch educations, and you have matching endpoints. Yeah, you can match education from job titles as well. That's it, I think. Yeah, hard to take questions from this online presentation, but in Helsinki, you are free to ask questions about this.